What's up, guys? In this video I just want to talk about potential improvements for Destiny with Shadowkeep coming up in about a month and change from the date of this video being recorded. So when I say improvements, I just mean general in-game maybe options or activities that could be fixed or tweaked, and we'll even talk about some things that should get removed. As you know, Bungie mentioned they're going to remove some powerfuls because the game is just becoming too bloated with powerfuls. You know, you have Strikes, Gambit, Crucible, Flashpoint, Spider, a million things in the tower, and then you have raids, of course. So something's just naturally gotta go. You can't have 8 million powerfuls a week. They feel like a chore, not, you know, powerful. So let's get started with small stuff first. Let's go to collections. Now, keep in mind, I don't actually don't have this script or anything. I'm just gonna be talking off the top of my head about things that I think need to be fixed in the game. So if I miss something, let me know. And if I start rambling, don't kill me. Okay, so let's start with this, I suppose. In Flare, for whatever reason, the Guided Games Last Wish emblem variants, even if you own them, are just blank. Who knows why? I have them right here unlocked, as you can see, but no matter what I do, including keep them in my inventory, they do not unlock. It's kind of annoying. It's not that crazy, but, you know, there's some people that have, you know, OCD and such, and it's really annoying, and it'd be nice if it was fixed. It's been bugged for at least 6 months, so just a small thing. Another thing is this ship from Season 3, Shade at the Gates. It's been bugged literally since collections were invented. I don't know why. I don't think Bungie has said why or when they would fix it, but I think a year is plenty of time to get it back into the game. If not, you know, maybe just remove it from collections like they did with the Iron Banner ship, and then bring it back later when they're ready. So that's pretty much all the small stuff from collections. Maybe I missed something. Let me know. Let's move on to the director. Another small thing that kind of ties in with the Last Wish Guided Games emblems is there's no Guided Games for Leviathan anymore. Crown has it, but the Callous Raid Leviathan, the Eater of Worlds, and Spire do not. Why? Who knows? But with the game going, you know, free to play and hopefully a ton of people coming into the game, it will probably be a good idea to reinstall or reactivate the Guided Games for all of these raids. I'm sure people will be looking for it. I'm sure people are going to go into each of the raids looking for the good armor with Armor 2.0 perks. So it just seems like a good idea. Plus, you know, if people don't have the emblem for that raid, or rather the emblem variants, that could be another thing too. Alright, let's move on to Vanguard. So for Vanguard, personally, this is one of the powerfuls, in my opinion, I think should be, well, deleted, basically. While story missions are good to play, you know, replayability and all that, this really feels like it doesn't serve any purpose. You just wait till the short story missions come on in the weekly rotation, you run the 3 missions, and you get your powerful, and you're gone. Instead, I think the playlist and the powerful should be deleted, and you just play the missions from the director from each planet. Now, if that's not enough, you could always have a different vendor for them. For example, I think Ikora just basically does nothing now. Yeah, she has a powerful, which I also think should be removed because it's pointless. 20 bounties for a powerful, I really feel like the game could go without that. So instead, you can make Ikora the story mission vendor like she used to be. She used to have 3 missions and some armor sets and such and such. Instead, just give her 5 missions you could play whenever you want to play it. If you want to play the story mission, there you go, go ahead. But I don't think a powerful should be tied to just story missions. Now, speaking of Ikora, another idea for her, if you don't want story missions, is replacing Hawthorne as the clan vendor. Why? Because, well, Hawthorne literally has not done a thing since the vanilla D2 campaign. So why not just change it? Hawthorne's basically a meme at this point anyway, you know. I saw your clan on the streets and I heard you guys are assholes and such. So get rid of Hawthorne. Don't get rid of the character necessarily. Just get her out of the tower since you don't have anything for her right now. Make Ikora the clan vendor. It makes sense. You know, clan Vanguard vendor, yada yada. And then bring back Hawthorne when you have something story-wise for her. In the meantime, you know, Ikora could have something to do. This could be gone. One less vendor in the tower, less bloated. And there you go. Another bloated piece that could be gotten rid of, in my opinion, is Ada's powerfuls. You can still keep the forge guns in there for farming for good rolls if you want, but a powerful is kind of irrelevant when we have 300 billion of them. I feel like you can get rid of these gun powerfuls and then the armor piece drop and still have a ton of powerfuls in the game to use, and the tower won't have 40 of these blinking the whole time, you know? Drifter is good, I think. You know, Gambit's going to be a staple for a long time. I'm sure they're going to put him into more lore. You know, he's tied into the darkness and all that, so I'm sure he'll be a pivotal character. And, of course, he has pinnacles to get as well. So he's pretty much a staple, and I think it's fine. Just like him, Shax, Zavala, Saladin, those are all fine. They should probably do something with Amanda other than sell green ships and sparrows. Probably. One Thunderlord quest that took us 2 minutes to beat doesn't really do anything for her. Tess, I mean, let's be serious, she's not going anywhere. And that's about it for tower vendors. You know, vault space will be nice to increase, maybe to 1,000, but that probably has more to do with technical aspects, with things like consoles not being able to handle too much stuff. I mean, I remember in Destiny 1, they could barely handle emotes, so who knows. Yeah, Rahul's still a dick, and Banshee is Banshee. That's about it for the tower. Back to this. I feel like Strike, or rather Vanguard Strikes, they're like 50-50 for me. You could get rid of it and I wouldn't care, but at the same time, I could see the powerful staying. I'm not saying get rid of the strikes, I'm saying the powerful. You could keep the powerful and then maybe change it to where you can farm the cosmetics from the original Nightfall loot. So like, let's say in Garden World you'd be able to get the ship, and in Arms Dealer you can get the Sparrow, things like that. So the playlist has something to farm while you're doing strikes, or your 3 strikes a week for per character or whatever. Meanwhile, if you're gonna do that, I feel like the Nightfall needs a massive overhaul. If people don't know, I hate, well, I don't hate, but like, I don't like the place that the Nightfall is in right now. I like that there's 3 strikes per week. I like that there's modifiers. I like that there's a handicap, but the reward system for it currently is just in shambles. And how you earn the reward and how you're rewarded for difficulty, it just doesn't work. I mean, there's 1 reward per Nightfall. A lot of them are just cosmetics. And you can earn all of them by doing literally the least amount of anything possible. For example, I can keep this modifier right here with Grenadier, I can put Heavyweight, and nothing else, and 0 handicap, and I can go into Hollowed Lair and farm Mindbenders for hours on end, and it'll drop! It will drop. It may take slightly longer if you don't have like a 200k score on your card, or rather on your emblem, but it will drop no matter what, consistently. And I just don't think that's logical. I think at least if you're gonna have drops at 0 handicap, you can have like an incremental system where the more difficult things get, the more you're rewarded. This thing goes all the way up to 260 in power handicap, and what do you get for doing this? Absolutely nothing. That's it. You get a score on your emblem if you beat it, but what does that do for you? And on top of this, they're changing the handicap system for Shadowkeep, where you'll be able to increase your handicap by 100 based on whatever activity it is. I assume Nightfalls will be like bare minimum 800 light or something like that in Shadowkeep. But yeah, if you ask me, I think in general Nightfalls should get their own armor sets per strike. I know that sounds like a lot, like a ton actually, because there's lots of Nightfalls. I mean, there's what, I want to say 14 strikes? 14, 15? And they're adding at least 2 more in Shadowkeep. But I don't know. I feel like at some point in the future they should add armor sets, or at least 1 armor piece and a gun per strike to farm for maybe every other season, maybe even if it's just every fall when you add, you know, new strikes and a whole new content spread. For example, let's take Hollow Lair again, right? It has Mindbenders. Let's say you're on the standard version of Nightfall, right? We know that there's going to be 3 difficulties coming for Nightfalls in Shadowkeep. I think it was Adept, Hero, and Legend. So let's say Mindbenders can be the quote-unquote default reward. and you can earn it on any of the difficulties, including the easiest one, which is the depth. That's fine. That's cool. But what if you use the handicap system in combination with the difficulty system, and based on how high you put your handicap, your rewards grew either more in quantity or more likely to drop. So let's say the strike had mindbenders, and then it had a different gun that you can only farm if you beat a certain threshold. So if you, let's say you only went up to, where's the minus button here? Let's say you went up to 150 or 125, something like that. You know, a middle ground, not too crazy, not too low. And then it unlocked the ability to farm that new weapon, and you can get random rolls. Let's say the default mindbenders is the curated roll, and if you get to, I don't know, 100 handicap, then you can farm for a random roll version. And then at 150 you get a new gun, and then at 200 you get a new armor piece or armor set, you know, so on and so on. And then let's say if you want to go max handicap, whatever that may be in the future, you can have increased chances at these things dropping. So let's say at 100 the mindbenders is just a random roll, but at 200 it's a random roll, and it has like a 50% increased drop rate. Maybe not 50, that's a little much. Maybe like a 25% increased chance to drop when you beat the strike. I feel like that's reasonable as replayability, as things you would want to get, things you want to collect. And that's pretty much the gist of it. I don't know what Bungie's going to do with Nightfalls this season, this upcoming season. It doesn't sound like they're going to do any item overhauls, so that's kind of disappointing. But I trust that they're experimenting and they know what they're doing, and hopefully it works out. But that's what I want to do with Nightfalls, and that's it for Vanguard pretty much. Let's talk about flashpoints real quick. I don't like the flashpoint currently in Destiny 2. It's fine. It sends you to a new planet each week. It lets you, I guess, play that planet so you don't neglect certain planets. But again, it seems like just a chore powerful. You just go to the planet. I don't know. Well, nobody wants to go to Mercury. We know that. You go to, I don't know, Mars, and then you wait for the war sets, the war mines, or if you get a miracle, you get the Hive event. You wait there for 5 minutes or whatever. You do it. You try to re-instance. You do it again, and then you keep rinsing and repeating until you get 100%. And then you go to the vendor and you're like, "Hey, give me my engram and my 3 shards." And that's really it. And it just doesn't feel like a powerful. So I feel like that should be deleted. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying every powerful that's quote unquote easy should be deleted, right? It's not just about difficulty or making everything hard. It's just, it's supposed to be a powerful reward. It's supposed to be something you're chasing, something you're improving. You know, you shouldn't just be leveling like that based on nothing. Like anybody can go to, oh, I'm gonna go to Tangled Shore and just do like 800 public events and get a bunch of blues till I hit the soft cap. Like, I feel like that's dull and boring. You should be doing something fun and a little bit challenging to get higher in light. I'm not saying it has to be difficult, just a little challenge. Like, you don't want to just one-shot everything, you know what I mean? As far as the Dreaming City goes, I think it's pretty stable as it is. You know, there's Last Wish, there's Shattered Throne. I feel like most people want Shattered Throne to be a weekly dungeon rather than every 3 weeks, but of course that doesn't really fall in well because of the 3-week curse cycle. But then again, we don't know the full story for Shadowkeep, or you know how it will tie into the next season, because Bungie said, you know, story-wise it'll tie in season to season. So for all we know, something in Shadowkeep could happen that could break the curse or break the cycle or something like that, and maybe then Shadow Throne can become a weekly dungeon rather than every 3 weeks. But other than that, I think Dreaming City is pretty solid. You know, Petra's different from other planetary vendors where you actually have to do certain activities for her, like Blindwell and Ascendant Challenge, rather than just go do this brand new public event 5 times and I'll give you stuff. So Dreaming City is pretty solid. Let's talk about raids. So for raids, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? There's more and more raids in the game these days. You know, when you first launch the main title of the game, there's always one raid, but then eventually it expands. So now we have Leviathan, all 4 of them now. We have Scourge and we have Last Wish. So while that's all nice, you would think that only the newest raids would give powerfuls for the new seasons or the new expansions, but in Destiny, or rather in Destiny 2, Last Wish, Scourge, and Crown all give powerfuls, and most likely when Shadowkeep launches, they'll still give powerfuls. Now, I'm not really against that. I feel like if a raid is a year old, it should probably not still drop powerful gear a year later in newer content. So I feel like Last Wish probably shouldn't be dropping powerfuls this coming September. I get that most people probably disagree with me on that one, and that's fine. I'm not totally against other people's opinions of that. Just something I thought of personally. Now, the other thing about raids is I don't understand why we do not have prestige raids, or heroic raids, or legend raids, whatever the new difficulties are. There really should be a secondary difficulty. Like, there's so many things they can do. They can make it outright more difficult. They can do a permanent version of contest. They can have it so that everything drops in normal mode, but then if you have a heroic mode, you have higher chances of getting certain things to drop. For example, let's take Last Wish, right? Last Wish had an entire set of gear, guns, armor, and then it had a ghost, a sparrow, and a ship. So why don't we have a prestige version of Last Wish, and then in the prestige version, you have an increased chance to get the ghost, the sparrow, well, the ship is a key, but just go with me here. The ship, and then an increased chance to get 1,000 voices when you open the chest at the end of the raid. Not a crazy increase. Let's say it'll go to like 25%, 30% instead of the normal 20 I think it is now. I don't see anything wrong with that. It doesn't really take away anything from normal raiders, but it does give you an increased chance to get stuff if you're an experienced raider, or if you want to, be a Sherpa and you want to guarantee them that extra chance to get whatever they're missing, for a title or the exotic, whatever. So I think a prestige mode would really work for something like that. And even if you don't add reward incentives, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that just want to do a more challenging version of the raid. So why not just put in a prestige and let the PvE people do what they want? If you don't want to play the prestige, you don't have to. It won't be mandatory. So that's my thoughts on that. I feel like a lot of people would agree with that. Nobody gets divided. There's no divided loot pool, nothing like that. So let me know what you think about that. And let's finish off with our last two director thingamajigs here. So for Crucible, I'm sure people are going to just meme me for even mentioning Crucible. But generally, I think they're doing the right things with Crucible. Quick play, they're splitting up into Classic Mix, which is basically still going to be quick play, it's just differently named. It'll be, I think, connection-based rather than just a sweat fest, which is, I'm sure, what people want anyway. Banner, I mean, let's just skip that. Comp, they will be changing it to 2 playlists, where it'll be 3v3 survival and then solo queue survival. It's not a bad change. It's definitely good that they put in a solo queue playlist, and survival is not terrible, but I feel like a lot of people agree that Clash should be the playlist for this, or the game type for the playlist, just because Clash is like, it's neutral ground. There's nothing crazy about it, there's nothing one-sided, it's just neutral. And I feel like it fits better for competitive. But again, survival's not terrible. They could have done a lot worse than 3v3 survival and a solo queue playlist. So it's not terrible, and we don't know all the changes to Crucible coming up, but hopefully they're good. And then finally we have Gambit. We do know that one of these playlists will be going away, Primer Gambit. Me personally, I think the regular Gambit should go away. Basically, regular Gambit is just a slug. It takes 10-15 minutes to do a match, just one match, just 3 rounds. I'm sure for the average gamer, they're pretty slow. If you have a squad going in 4-stack, you could probably melt the boss instantly and get out there quick, but for the general audience, it's pretty long. And the fact that you can just melt the boss instantly is kind of a turnoff. You just kill the invader and you're like, alright, well, let's just destroy the boss in 2 seconds flat, why not? Whereas in Prime, you have the boss, the Primeval, it has mechanics, it has a damage pool, you can't just damage him forever, non-stop, and you have to worry about the invader, you have to time all these things and have good teamwork, otherwise you know, it could cost you the match. If you ignore the invader, he'll wipe you, and then your DPS phase is gone, and the other team can capitalize. So I feel like Prime is definitely the better choice. For Reckoning, there's not really much to say. It's been a topic of discussion forever, and everybody said everything about it. We know that there's getting changes made to it that will have, I can only guess, increased drop rates. How much they're going to get increased by, we don't know. You would think they'll probably make it to where a gun drops every time on Tier 3 that you beat it, hopefully. Otherwise, it's not going to look great. My personal idea was kind of, I'd say 80% in favor and 20% of people were against it. It was to bring in the Year 1 Trials armor, just the armor, not the ornaments, and not the ghosts or the emblems, into Reckoning, and have the regular Trials gear put into Tier 2, random drop at the end, and then have the Flawless gear put in Tier 3, random drop at the end. Again, no ornaments, no ghosts, no emblems, so the original people could keep something to make it special, right? And basically the idea is, you know, it was Trials of the 9. The Reckoning is featuring the 9. It can tie in, you know, not perfectly, but it can definitely tie in. And then you can just have people farming for armor and guns at the same time. And then I get people, some people who don't want Trials gear to come back because it's special to them or whatever if they earned it originally, and that's fine. I'm not saying you're wrong. I can see your viewpoint, but in my opinion, it just makes sense because Trials launched on console first, so PC players were obviously behind. Anybody who switched from console to PC was not only behind, but then they would have to grind all the armor sets all over again a second time. And back then, there were no collections, so there was no reason to do it. They were like, oh, I got it on console, I don't need it on here. And then collections came on, you're like, well, oh, if I had it, I could have just taken out of collections whenever I wanted to. But then Trials went away, right? And it's been on hiatus ever since, and it probably won't be back at least for one more season, and it'll probably not be Trials of 9 ever again. It'll probably be Trials of Osiris or Zavala, where he makes you watch television or something. I don't know. So I feel like the old gear could be put in here. It'll please a lot of people. It'll be grind incentive, I guess. And that's it. I think that's how Reckoning can be improved. That's about it. There's nothing else really to cover. Menagerie, you know, they can increase the chest farming drop rates, which I think they're doing with the community event. I don't know if they're gonna keep it that way, but people should be able to get, I think, 5 chests per run at the end of the event if we complete it. It should probably stay that way, to be honest. It'll be old content, it'll be old gear, and people obviously don't want to farm 1 item per run, so something should be increased by it, but it's not a big deal. It's not one of the biggest things to talk about in terms of improvement, and that's about it. Spider, he could just sell stuff. Yeah, you're fine, Spider. Alright, that's about it, guys. Sorry for all the rambling. Like I said, I didn't have a script or anything. This is mostly off the top of my head, just things I could think of and things that I knew. And if you agree or disagree on some things, then, you know, let me know in the comments. And I'll catch you guys next time. P.S. Don't forget to sub and like and hit that bell because it actually helps. Okay, bye.